This is Kenneth Moore from Zionswatchmanmedia, and I'd like to welcome you to our next video this week on our study of the book of Daniel. And this week we are on Daniel chapter 4. Okay, so let's get into this thing. Daniel chapter 4 opens with King Nebuchadnezzar giving this praise to God and acknowledging him as the supreme ruler over all. Let us read about it here. Nebuchadnezzar the king unto all people, nations, and languages that dwell in the earth, peace be multiplied unto you. I thought it good to shew the signs and the wonders that the high God hath wrought toward me. How great are his signs, and how mighty are his wonders. His kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and his dominion is from generation to generation. Now this Nebuchadnezzar that we see in chapter 4 is a different Nebuchadnezzar than we have seen in our previous chapters as we've been studying Daniel. Here we see Nebuchadnezzar displaying a deep humility, a humility that did not come by chance or accident. Nebuchadnezzar, to get to this point, had to go through a very hard experience, an experience that we are soon going to find out about. Let us continue reading. Nebuchadnezzar tells us the story. I, Nebuchadnezzar, was at rest in mine house and flourishing in my palace. I saw a dream which made me afraid, and the thoughts upon my bed and the visions of my head troubled me. Therefore made I a decree to bring all the wise men of Babylon before me, that they might make known unto me the interpretation of the dream. The proud monarch was in his palace and just resting, basking in his glory. You see, Nebuchadnezzar was a very successful king. He had conquered the mightiest of nations such as Egypt, Tyre, Judea, and others. But not only this, he was also a very successful builder. You see, Nebuchadnezzar was the one who had built up Babylon to its highest peak and had made it one of the wonders of the world. But all of this success and glory could not stop what was about to hit the king next. You see, he had another mysterious dream that he could not understand or even figure out. Therefore, he called in his wise men to help him, and actually this time tells them the dream, but they cannot help him either. You would think that by this time, Nebuchadnezzar would have learned his lesson dealing with these wise men. Nevertheless, though, Daniel is finally brought in to help the king, and Nebuchadnezzar tells him his dream. Let us read about it here. Thus were the visions of mine head in my bed. I saw, and behold, a tree in the midst of the earth, and the height thereof was great. The tree grew and was strong, and the height thereof reached unto heaven, and the sight thereof to the end of all the earth. The leaves thereof were fair, and the fruit thereof much, and in it was meat for all. The beasts of the field had shadow under it, and the fowls of the heavens dwelt in the boughs thereof, and all flesh was fed of it. I saw in the visions of my head upon my bed, and behold, a watcher, and an holy one came down from heaven. He cried aloud and said thus, Hew down the tree, and cut off his branches, shake off his leaves, and scatter his fruit. Let the beasts get away from under it, and the fowls from his branches. Nevertheless, leave the stump of his roots in the earth, even with a band of iron and brass, in the tender grass of the field, and let it be wet with the dew of heaven, and let his portion be with the beast in the grass of the earth. Let his heart be changed from a man's, and let a beast's heart be given unto him, and let 7 times pass over him. This matter is by the decree of the watchers, and the demand by the word of the holy ones, to the intent that the living may know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and giveth it to whomsoever he will, and setteth up over it the basest of men. Okay, that was a lot there, so let us just recap. So there was a huge tree that the king saw, and that under this tree all of the beasts gathered, and the tree gave shade and food unto the beast, and the birds of the air made their nests in the tree. Then out of nowhere a voice came down from the heavens saying that this tree was going to be cut down. You see, someone had been watching this tree, investigating this tree, and had pronounced a judgment on it. But the voice also said that the roots of the tree and its stump would remain, and that it would be protected by bands of brass and iron. And whosoever this tree represented, his heart or his mind would be changed from the mind of a man to the mind of a beast. And that 7 times we're going to pass over this person. And this would all be done so that those living would know that the Most High ruleth over all in the earth. Now, this dream was very hard for Daniel, not because he didn't understand what the dream meant, but because of the severity of the judgment contained in the dream. The Bible says that Daniel was actually troubled for an hour because of this dream and wouldn't give the interpretation. But the king, to relieve Daniel, tells him not to let the dream trouble him and to just give the interpretation anyway, which Daniel does. And Daniel starts by first explaining who this great tree represents. Let us read about it here. It is thou, O king, that art grown and become strong, for thy greatness is grown and reacheth unto heaven, and thy dominion to the end of the earth. Then he explains the cutting down of the tree. Pay attention. O king, and this is the decree of the Most High, which is come upon my lord the king, that they shall drive thee from men, and thy dwelling shall be with the beasts of the field, and they shall make thee to eat grass as oxen, and they shall wet thee with the dew of heaven. And 7 times shall pass over thee, till thou know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and giveth it to whomsoever he will. And whereas they commanded to leave the stump of the tree roots, thy kingdom shall be sure unto thee. After that thou shalt have known that the heavens do rule. So this great tree here was actually a symbol of Nebuchadnezzar the king. And God was warning him that if he would not turn away from his pride and arrogancy, that a judgment was soon to fall upon him. And Daniel here even pleads with the king that he will turn away from his wicked ways and that he will start doing righteousness by showing mercy unto the poor. Now this dream left a huge impression on Nebuchadnezzar, and it seemed to have worked out some reform in his life. But you see, pride and arrogancy had not been wholly uprooted from the king's heart, and eventually these two things sprung back up. This led the king to lose confidence in the interpretation of Daniel and to laugh at his fears about the dream. And it was 12 months later, after the king had initially had his dream, that the king was walking in his palace, and these prideful words fell upon his lips. Is not this great Babylon, that I have built for the house of the kingdom by the might of my power, and for the honor of my majesty? The Bible says that while these prideful words were coming from the king's lips, the judgment came. There fell a voice from heaven, saying, O King Nebuchadnezzar, to thee it is spoken, the kingdom is departed from thee. And they shall drive thee from men, and thy dwelling shall be with the beasts of the field. They shall make thee to eat grass as oxen, and 7 times shall pass over thee, until thou know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and giveth it to whomsoever he will. The same hour was the thing fulfilled upon Nebuchadnezzar, and he was driven from men and did eat grass as oxen, and his body was wet with the dew of heaven, till his hairs were grown like eagle's feathers, and his nails like birds' claws. Pride truly does go before destruction. The king lost his sanity and went into the field and started acting like a beast. Amazing. Nebuchadnezzar, one who had been so highly exalted, through misusing the privileges that God gave him, began living like a beast. He did not understand that self-exaltation and pride ultimately lead one to destruction. Man that is in honor and understandeth not is as the beast that perisheth, the Bible says. But there was still hope for this king. Remember, the voice from the heavens had said that 7 times were to pass over Nebuchadnezzar, or 7 years were to finish, and then the king would be restored to his kingdom. This is exactly what happened. Let us read about it here. At the same time my reason returned unto me, and for the glory of my kingdom mine honor and brightness returned unto me. And my counselors and my lords sought unto me, and I was established in my kingdom, and excellent majesty was added unto me. Now I, Nebuchadnezzar, praise and extol and honor the King of heaven, all whose works are truth and his ways judgment, and those that walk in pride he is able to abase. The proud king had been humbled, and now God had raised him up as his humble child. You see, this story here teaches us a very powerful lesson, that whenever one tries to exalt self, he will eventually be thrown down. But on the other hand, when one humbles oneself, he will eventually be raised up. And Jesus taught this principle to us in the book of Luke chapter 14, verse 11. For whosoever exalteth himself shall be abased, or brought low, and he that humbleth himself shall be exalted. So what does this mean for us as Christians today? Simply put, our main objective should not be to have the highest position or to have the supreme place over all men. No, it should be completely different. We should not be concerned about if we are the head elder of the church or the president of some school or the conference president. No. Our mindset should be to bow as low at the feet of Jesus as possible, for it is only there that we can actually be raised up to any real glory. By bowing low at the feet of Jesus, our glory is laid in the dust, and we are then prepared to receive His perfect righteousness and be lifted up. This story here also has a very powerful lesson in it, dealing with the end-time Babylonian beast power, the papacy, or the Roman Catholic system. You see, this power is one that has tried to exalt itself above the minds and hearts of other men. And the Bible says that eventually this power is going to be thrown down, a judgment is going to be sent upon it. Therefore, God is now warning His people to leave this system with a voice from the heavens, similar to what we saw in the dream of Nebuchadnezzar. Let us read what this voice has to say. Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues. For her sins have reached unto heaven, and God hath remembered her iniquities. Therefore shall her plagues come in one day, death and mourning and famine, and she shall be utterly burned with fire, for strong is the Lord who judgeth her. I pray that when the judgments of God fall upon this end-time Babylonian beast power, you will not be a part of it. And even more importantly, I pray that you will humble yourself at the feet of Jesus so that He can raise you up, clothed in His righteousness. This has been Kenneth Moore from Zionswatchmanmedia, and as always, until next time. Hey there, this is Kenneth Moore from Zionswatchmanmedia, and I hope you just enjoyed the video that you just watched. If you want to learn more, be sure to subscribe below and to click on the bell so that you get notifications to all of our latest videos. And we will see you on the next one.